Hello and welcome back to Energetically You. This is a special holiday wellness edition. I have 4 more episodes coming out this season or until the end of the year. And then I'll be taking a little micro break, which you may or may not notice because there won't be that many. There might be a week or maybe 2 without a episode published, but a break from recording, more for myself. And that's what I wanted to discuss today. So in case you don't already know me, my name is Megan Swan. I'm the founder of Megan Swan Wellness. I coach women who are looking to optimize their wellness. I use the modalities in particular. Well, I have a 6 pillars of wellness framework that I use, but some commonalities across are plant-based nutrition, movement, mindfulness, and mindset practices that have women feeling more aligned with who they truly are, empowered to make bigger decisions for themselves, and ultimately stop playing small. I often have women that come to me and they start working on, sort of the nitty gritty of what you might think of as wellness. And I'd like to think that I have made wellness so much more profound. I'm not even ready to say it, but it's come to me like yet a new level of wellness. But really, I focus on the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual wellness of my clients. And as we tend to remove the layers of things that no longer serve us and potentially add layers of things that do serve us, but ultimately it comes down to just building like a deep, deep trust in your inner knowing, your intuition. We all have it. But it's socialized out of us from a very, very young age. We are taught to listen more to a given authority on a subject, an expert, a parent, a teacher, society at large, multi-billion-dollar advertising campaigns, etc. So we're socialized to think and feel that we don't know. But we know. I have so many women that I work with that at the end of the day, what they need is a permission slip to do less. And that is what I'm going to talk to you today about. Is one of I have a series of 2022 wellness trends. I'm going to try and break it down, which I'm not going to discuss on this episode, but I will be sharing in the coming weeks. I have 13. I'm going to try and make it 10. We'll see. But number 1 on the list, of which I'm going to dive deeply into today, is less is the new more. And I'm not proposing that this is like a radical new idea by any means, but I'm going to try and explain it in a unique way from my perspective. I apologize for the sirens and the dogs, but life. The dogs are barking. Anyway, so as I was saying, less is the new more. And there are a couple of layers of this that I want to break down. So first off, I consider myself sort of like a type A personality, and I tend to attract clients that are in that realm as well. And I've more recently understood that even the type of yoga that I was attracted to, Ashtanga yoga, that I trained in for many, many years, also tends to attract type A personality. These are people, that insist on being the straight A students, insisting on doing all the things all the time, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, really, I'll speak for myself, but, on some level, learning at a young age or finding power that when you're doing all the things right, you have a certain level of respect, maybe in society or for yourself. It really depends on the person, I think. But I will paint the picture here that we have so many women, and I can put myself on this list, that, in the age of information overload, where we're all hyper aware of all the things we quote unquote should be doing, or at least could be doing, we are doing too much. And it in fact is stressing us out. Either doing it too much is stressing us out, or the fact that we don't get it all done and we have this layer of self-judgment just, that we carry around with us, that's contributing to our exhaustion. So I'm inviting you to consider that this holiday season is the perfect time to try on some of these concepts, some of these ideas, because this is not something that it's, really easy to get on board with when you've been thinking a whole other way for many, many, many years. And ultimately, it comes back to another theme that I've been talking a lot about this year and will be talking about even more going forward, is embodiment, meaning we have to, on a daily basis, do some sort of practice that is getting us out of our heads and into our bodies. And some of us are good at that. Some of us do that through meditation, but I would argue even meditation is sort of like a top-down wellness practice where it is helping you have a more control over your thoughts and your attention span, and ultimately potentially direct your thoughts to be in more positive patterns, more in empowering narratives from a more abundant mindset. But still, that's all in your head. And what we need are the bottom up practices, meaning breath work, meaning maybe yoga, maybe Pilates, maybe running, maybe walking, maybe hugging a tree, maybe floating therapy, maybe grounding your toes in the dirt, maybe smelling certain essential oils or natural things in your environment that truly ground you. And what it all comes down to is grounds your nervous system in a way that you telling yourself to calm down is not the same thing. So back to less is more. I'll keep bringing this thread in. So less is more. So first thing you need to consider is just this idea, like, what if I'm not meant to do all the things? Like, reality is you can't. None of us have time to do all of the quote unquote things that quote unquote experts say that we need to be doing. And that's the other thing that I am going to be hyping on more, because I'm going to be calling this out big time. If you are encountering an expert that claims to have a diet, an exercise plan, a wellness solution, a strategy, anything arguably in life, but let's keep it focused on wellness, and they claim that it is a solution for every single human being, then quite frankly, you should be very cautious in their message and how much you allow it to filter in, because it's just simply not true. There is no one size fits all wellness for many reasons, one of which we are all very bio-individual, whether that is on a DNA, on a blood type, a chemistry, and our past experiences, where we're geographically located in the world, our phase in life, the phase of the year, the season, the phase of our menstrual cycle, whether or not we've gone through pregnancy and given birth, whether or not we've gone through menopause, whether or not we have traveled extensively and gone to many, many different places and experienced many cultures versus always lived on the same plot of land. Like, there's just so many things that factor into what are the wellness practices that help you thrive. And that also changes for the individual over their lifespan, over the season, over all these things, right? So I see that the main reason that most experts or the industry, always sells that there's this one size fits all narrative is because it's much simpler, right? There's a certain simplicity, if you will, and probably it's due to the fact that at the end of the day, if not the major objective, if not only objective, is to sell more, because the more people that believe that that's the solution for themselves, the more they're going to buy into it. Instead of saying, I have this thing that worked for me, I'm more than happy to walk you through how I tried it. You need to try it on and be aware of how it affects you as you try it on, and then decide for yourself, is that something that serves you, or is that something that stresses you out? A great example here is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting isn't for everybody. It works really well for some people, and it stresses other people out. And therefore, it's counterproductive to wellness if it's adding a layer of stress. And this is a good example that I can draw another analogy that I've been talking about lately, at least in private circles and with my clients, is this part of developing this trust, this inner knowing, this communication, if you will, with your body, to check in and see, do I like this wellness practice, or do I just feel like really limited? Do I feel like it's a chore? Like all those things where it's either doing it is stressing you out when you're not enjoying it, or the fact that you don't do it and you're not keeping up with some sort of external schedule or discipline or structure, and that's stressing you out. Either way, that's totally counterproductive. Adding a layer of stress because of wellness is totally ridiculous, right? So here's what I wanted to talk about. Think of, let's stay with intermittent fasting. So it could be that, intermittent fasting for 3 days a year for you and your body is amazing. Other people, 3 days a week. Other people, never. And it goes back to developing this deep relationship with, or communication, if you will. Your body is sending these messages. We're just not listening, because it's not your fault. It's not our fault. We are socialized to give over our inner knowing to some sort of external authority that apparently knows better than what we know about our own body. And so part of developing this relationship, and I just wrote an article actually where I detail out what are the 3 steps that you need. And I'll be sharing that as well inside a holiday wellness masterclass that I'm hosting December 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll drop the link here in the notes if you want to sign up. It's free for the first 10 incredible women that jump on the opportunity. It is going to be a very practical masterclass that sets you up to have a holiday wellness strategy, if you will, to craft your own new wellness lifestyle. And spoiler, it's probably going to mean that you're going to do a whole lot less, which is why I'm suggesting that this is a key time of year to dive into this exercise, is because, it's probably easier for you at this time of year to get on board with doing less. We sort of on some level tend to have the idea that vacations or holidays, and depending on the person and the culture, we define those things differently. In my family, holiday, between my husband and I, holiday means we're doing something without the children. It's like out of our routine, out of like break from parenthood, all the things. Vacation is like family vacation. There are lots of benefits that come along with that too, but there's just like a different understanding of it's not going to be a full on break as a parent. So back to developing this inner knowing and getting to know yourself again, rediscover this connection, this innate inner knowing and understanding with your own body's intelligence, so that you can mentally, open your Pandora's box of wellness practices that you have inevitably learned over the years, and be confident that you know what is serving you at a given moment, and just remove that layer of guilt and self-judgment about all the things that you don't want to do, or that are not serving you, that are entirely counterproductive to your personal wellness level. And one, I think, important caveat to this whole conversation is I am speaking to, like I started off talking about, I tend to attract as clients these type A personalities. I attract women that already know on many levels, like what they quote unquote should be doing. And they just can't, first off, they want guidance on how to implement this long list of wellness practices that they're aware that they should be including. And they just don't find the energy and the time and all these things. What is important to understand, and I'll use myself as an example, there were times in my life that having a very strict, disciplined, structured container for my personal wellness and growth at that time was what I needed. And it's taking me a few years, particularly over this last year, where I've really focused on embodiment and feminine energy, which is all about trust and knowing that you plant a seed, and, clapping 1,000 times is not going to make it grow any faster. Planting a seed is all about respecting the process, trusting the process, a lot of waiting, a lot of pause, a lot of step back and observation, noticing, connecting, the energetics of all these things. So it's taken me, I guess, a year where on so when I was first introduced into the wellness world, if you will, industry, my first, my gateway drug, if you will, into wellness was yoga. And at that time, that was the only healthy thing that was in my life. And I needed a dogmatic, strict Ashtangi structure to get me out of where I was in my life, which was depressed, full-on alcoholism, lack of clarity and direction on what I wanted to do with my life. And it just provided this safe container where I just barely began to see that there were different narratives, build or have trust in a bigger vision for myself, and ultimately, step off the Ferris wheel I was on at the time and follow that inner knowing that, I need to go travel. I need to go. I don't know exactly what is missing, but I feel like I'm not going to find it on this Ferris wheel. I need to step off of it. And at the time I was being called to Mexico, which is a whole other story. And I just trusted that, even though I didn't know why, it didn't really make sense, but this deep inner knowing was telling me that something for me, some answer was in Mexico. And those of you who know me well know sort of like the end of the story. And I think that the point is, I needed that container. Fast forward 10, 15 years, right now I practice yoga sometimes once a week. And sidebar, I never practiced it to the level that a hardcore Ashtanga yogi would have considered me an equal. I was taught that you needed to wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning and do the full series. That's like an hour, 15 minutes. Once you're quite versed, maybe up to 2 hours in the beginning of Mysore. I never practiced like that. But my point is twofold. One, at the time, I needed to have the structure, the knowing, the see, the knowledge, the practice. It needed to be presented in that way. And I needed to kind of feel secure in that structure at that time until I felt secure enough to know, yeah, I see all this wisdom and this knowledge and this practice, and I'm confident that I can take that with me and make it my own and trust that it's benefiting me enough, or how I need it to benefit me, and all those things. So sometimes you need extreme discipline and structure. Another example for me personally was when I decided to get sober. I shifted. I had all, you'll, if you ever do it, or you will know that there's so much time spent drinking or planning or recovering from drinking. You have a lot of free time when you get sober. So I put all of that free time into running, and having those new goals and that new structure and that new discipline was very important and informative for me at that time in my life when I was making that big change. But then it got to a point where I was just starting to judge myself because I didn't feel like running a given day, like way into the middle of the pandemic. And so I started just running less, but I still had this strong internal narrative and self-judgment, self-criticism that I was somehow like not really a runner anymore. And, just convincing myself, rationalizing, well, at any time I decide to train, maybe one day in the future for another marathon, I can do it. I know I can do it. I did it once. I can do it again. I don't need to run every day, yada, yada, yada. And it's exhausting, that inner narrative. And it's counterproductive because it's stressing me out. It's creating this layer of stress over something that's supposed to be positive. And so I wanted to share with you my experience specifically over the last, I can say 143 days. And I can say that because I very consciously stopped weighing myself. Because really, I have not dramatically changed my weight. It fluctuates, may up to 5 pounds, 1 or 2 kilos. And there's just so much inner dialogue that we as women have around that number on the scale. I was aware even a year ago, I would weigh myself maybe once every 3 months, but specifically for the last, I feel like it's been almost 6 months. Let's say it's been 5 months for sure. I actively decided that, you know what, I'm just going to wake up every morning and tune in with myself. And the days that I want to meditate, I'm going to meditate. The days that I want to run, I'll run. The days that I want to work out with my husband, do like a HIIT, I'll do that. The days I don't feel like doing anything, I'm not going to do anything. And I'm not going to have this long rationalization to myself of how I've earned the break or that, I'll make it back up the next week, or just let that go. And you know what? I weighed myself yesterday for the first, just out of random curiosity, partly because the last week, even the last month, but it's kind of been a crazy, we started traveling again. So lots of restaurants, lots of me being in a place that I'm not entirely, there's always healthy choices, but you're still usually not entirely in control of your routine like you are when you're in your home. And I needed that break from the other parts of my routine, like cooking for my family multiple times a day and, having to do all the planning and making sure everyone's getting all the vegetables they need, et cetera, et cetera. And long story short, I have been hardly running, once in a while doing yoga, once in a while working out. Pretty much the only non-negotiable, because that's when I wake up, that's what I'm craving, is my meditation practice. I've sometimes been journaling, sometimes not. I have really tuned into my cravings and inner knowing that, sometimes I have cheese here and there. Very rarely am I actually craving, meat. But if I am, I have it. I hardly eat fish anymore. I'm not telling you this because this is what you should do. I'm just telling you that things that I've observed. And in this, I also accepted and embraced a little bit more my sweet tooth, which meant like everything from, whatever it occurred to me that like, ooh, a piece of candy might be nice, I'd have it, which are more often than not here in Mexico, it's always like, no, I'm good, because they don't have the same candy that I grew up with. And that maybe it's entirely changed. Like the gummy bears just don't taste like they did when I was a kid. I don't know if that's because they're different here or they're different now or what, but that's not entirely true. I know that there are quality gummy bears and I enjoy them on a whole other level. The point I'm trying to make is, recently we went to Houston. I literally consumed like the entire minibar snack tray, watching Sex and the City for 4 hours on one afternoon. So I had Pringles, I had like a king size Twix, I had Reese's Pieces, I had a bag of chips, I had a bag of cookies. Like, to be fair, most things were like kind of in a mini version. But even if they weren't, like the point is I just went at it. And without any judgment, just because like, hey, oh my God, we're staying in this cute little hotel and look at this spread, and there's like zero judgment. Even with all that, I still have lost like 8 pounds in the last, honestly, I don't even quite believe it because I don't feel that different. And like I said, the number, which I'm not even going to share because it's not important, but I can tell you that with all of my heart that I've never felt more in control, but not in control in the sense that I'm controlling anything. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe that's not the right word. I have never felt more at ease. And just knowing that I can trust whatever my body feels like doing, that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to be okay. Now, I think I sort of already touched on this, and I'll just say it one more time. If you're in a place on your quote unquote wellness journey where you're, 10 plus pounds or, 5 plus kilos overweight, like you're medically being compromised by your wellness choices or lack thereof, this conversation isn't really for you. There are many amazing coaches and programs and all those things out there, and I'm more than happy to help you find the structure and the discipline in order for you to make that major life shift. I'm talking to women that are stressing themselves out because, like I was, because mostly they're judging themselves. They've internalized all of this external authority, what their girlfriends are doing, what's trendy, what Oprah says, all the things. And it's contributing to our burnout. It's contributing to our exhaustion. It is detrimental to our overall health and wellness because we're stressing ourselves out, not keeping up with our quote unquote wellness list. And this is why, for me, it is so essential that we learn to trust our inner knowing, to tap in more to our intuition, our body's intelligence, the rhythms, the ebb and flow, and just take a mental break from self-judgment. It's not easy. It's not easy because it's so internalized. But this is what I'm going to help you craft your plan on how to do this personally over the holidays. Those of you who are in the masterclass, there's going to be a private accountability chat over the holidays, just so you can feel connected to other incredible women and also keep yourself accountable as much as you see fit. Totally optional. But I wanted to provide this kind of support over the holidays. But otherwise, I'm personally going to be taking like a huge, huge break because, something in my body and my mind is telling me to do that. I don't actually physically feel like that's, I think, the problem here in this, keeping up with the Joneses mentality or the extreme information overload age that we live in. I do so much to take good care of myself that, of course, I could keep going at the pace I'm going. But something inside me is telling me, no, you need a break. You need a break. And so I'm going to be largely taking a break from my business, from client work, certainly from being so active on social media. For sure 2 weeks, maybe even 3. I'm going to see how it goes. Leaving myself that little permission slip to even take 3. I'll be showing up in very specific ways, and everybody that I am personally supporting privately, is not going to feel it at all. You might notice less posts on social media. You might not. Hopefully you're going to be so much in your own wellness mode that you wouldn't notice, right? Because I highly recommend that everyone unplugs a little bit this holiday season. So I think that's all I wanted to share with you. I don't know how long I've gone on, hopefully not too long. I always love hearing from you, and this will be the last sort of personal with just me episode of season 1 of Energetically You. Thank you so much for all of you that have been following along. And if you really want to support me in the sense that, you want to support me because you love the show and you don't necessarily need or want to work with me ever or at this point, I would greatly appreciate a review on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast, or taking a screenshot of the episode that you really like the most and sharing that on social media. Tag me, of course. Those things really help so that other people just see that, something spoke to you, that it was worth listening to. Because like everything else is just, even in the podcast world, it's exploding and there's just so much content. And it's also going to be, I think, it's an important platform moving forward because we connect, we can embody, we can feel in our body someone's voice. We receive that frequency. It's a whole other level of connection than we can ever get with text. And people know that. So that's why video is exploding in the online space and anything that's audio as well, because it's allowing us to feel connected with other human beings in ways that are increasingly more complicated to achieve, as often, at least in our day-to-day lives, for multiple of reasons. Maybe we could do an episode on that next year, but I wanted to personally invite you to the Holiday Wellness Masterclass to craft your personal holiday wellness plan so that you can go from burnt out to holiday glow. And whatever that means, maybe last little thing I'll touch on here, we tend to kind of save up or, get ourselves mentally ready to make it to the finish line, if you will, of our regular routine, and then look forward to some sort of escapism, whether that's, mentally escaping, partying a little hard, numbing a little too much, or physically getting out of our environment. And I'm not saying escapism is bad. I think, escaping your regular routine is in fact very needed. But it's more about the intention around escaping. Are you escaping to experience and embody, connecting with other human beings, or connecting with nature, or connecting with a new point of view or a new culture? All that can be very nourishing. And I think we all know the things that are not so nourishing that in fact, make us more tired and pull our energy down. And so I think it's just finding that perfect balance for you. And in this class, I'm going to teach you how to tap into, how to know what are these steps that we need to go through to have a much deeper connection, inner knowing, and trust of what wellness lifestyle is really personally for us, and how to modify it, because all of these things ebb and flow. And that's also part of understanding your connection, your inner knowing, your intuition, is that we're animals. It's animalistic instincts that we have that we could really tap into and hone a lot more, and ultimately trust. And trust for me is like a much more profound sense of ease in our lives. And with that, ultimately, optimal wellness blossoms. So I'll leave it at that. You know where to find me on social media at Megan Swan Wellness, and the website is meganswanwellness.com. I will share the link to sign up for the holiday masterclass in the show notes of this episode. And if I don't hear from you, have a beautiful, beautiful holiday season. Connect with loved ones. Ebb and flow, rest and restore. Less is more. Love you.